Hello and welcome to today's video. A question I get asked a lot is why use fountain pens? And obviously this doesn't come from within the fountain pen community. This comes from those people who see that I'm a fountain pen user in everyday life, or that I talk to, and all those kinds of things. And it is a really hard question to answer for a number of reasons. Firstly, because everyone's experience with fountain pens is going to be different. You might say, oh, I use fountain pens to someone, and they go, oh, I can't use them, it's too messy. My uncle had one and he ended up with ink on his shirt every second day, all of that kind of stuff. And they're all legitimately these people's experiences with fountain pens, and you can't avoid that. So it's a hard question for me to answer. So what I thought I would do today is, instead of just answering why use fountain pens, and I've covered this and several other like-minded topics over the years, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about what I see as 3 pros and cons of fountain pen use, and how you can either incorporate them or turn them around in your life. The first pro I'm going to talk about today is the most basic of them all, and it is the act of writing. Now, we all know that writing by hand uses different parts of your brain than typing at a computer. And it is great to keep all those parts of your brain active and engaged, and it helps you continue to develop those neural pathways and all of that kind of stuff. Not to mention, if you have to memorize something, writing it by hand, or if you want to write out your calendar or to-do list, you're more likely to remember these things. But just the simple act of writing and the motor skills involved activates different parts of your brain. So that's not just fountain pens, that's pens and writing in general, and that's a really important one. A similar one to that is the benefits that have come from things like journaling. Now, you can journal in a multitude of different ways, for organization, for mental health, whatever you need it to be. There are benefits to all of those in your life. If you are struggling with organizational issues, if you have something like ADHD, or if you're neurodiverse in any other kind of way, often writing and journaling and planning like that can really be an advantage to your everyday life. Also, from a mental health perspective, journaling is a great way of coming to terms with things, of thinking through ideas, and also strategizing and developing, once again, those sort of pathways to allow you to cope and manage with things that you are struggling with, or to enjoy things that are going really well for you. The other thing to do with the act of writing, and this is more specific to fountain pens, is the physical writing experience on the page. No other writing tool gives that same experience. Yes, you can get very nice rollerballs, and I personally love the feeling of a pencil on the page, but the feeling of a fountain pen on the page, the smoothness, the free-flowing ink, all of that are massive pros to writing with a fountain pen over something like an everyday ballpoint pen. Now, this list is going to be different for everyone, and I'm not trying to cover, environmental things, or individual people's physical issues that can arise from writing, and how fountain pens can be better for someone like if you have arthritis. It's a more pleasant writing experience. These are what I find to be the pros and cons, and this next one is something I personally really enjoy, and that is what I call the search. Now, this can be a multitude of different things, and it will be different for everyone once again. For me, it's the search for the grail pen. It's that knowing that there's a particular pen out there. For me, it's the Visconti Brunelleschi. If I see one of those in person, I've told myself I'm going to buy it if it's in the right nib size and all of that. And it's part of that search. It's knowing where to look or where to find it, and setting myself those parameters of, if it's in person, I will do it. That search for the grail pen, or searching different options of what might be the perfect pen for you, it's very fun. Another part of the search is the search for limited editions, and that can be old limited editions or limited editions that are just hard to get your hands on. We've all been there looking at, a special edition of a particular pen and going, oh, I wish I could get that, and then we leave it too late. For me, it was that beautiful blue Lamy 2000. I wish I'd got my hands on one of those. But that limited edition search, or the search for pens that are no longer widely available. You think of something like the Faber-Castell Loom. I still suggest that to people, and I say, if you can get your hands on one, get one, because at the price point, you're not going to find much better writing experience, and it won't be for everyone, that pen, but that's not the point. There's this search for that quest of finding what is the pen for you. And then less specifically, but also more specifically, finding what is the perfect pen for you. You can try a whole bunch of pens from $5 Gin House to $3,000 Mont Blanc. You can try every pen and then find the one that works for you. And it's that moment of holding it and writing with it, and the joy that comes from that, and just that experience of going, yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. That perfect pen is out there for everyone. It might not be widely available, or it might be the $20 pen at your local stationery store. Whatever it is for you, if it's a perfect pen for you, finding that, enjoying it, that's a really, really fun part of this hobby. And the third major pro that I find in this fountain pen hobby is the individuality of it. Now, a lot of these pens are mass produced. There are a lot of people with Lamy Safaris out there, but there are a large number of colors available, lots of different nib sizes. But what's really fun is that ink and pen combinations. There's so many inks, so many inks. I know that I've tried over 800 different inks. I've got 400 or 500 in my collection. There are so many ink colors, and yes, some are very similar, but they might have slightly different properties, or a different price point, or different sheen, different shading, all those kinds of things. And then partnering that with a different pen, you get a different writing experience because the nib is different. All of that kind of stuff. The individuality of it is so great. Also, fountain pens are unique. There aren't as many fountain pen users that out in the world as there are ballpoint users. So you're not just writing with another big pen. You're doing something that is slightly different and slightly, once again, individual. And that's what's fun about this. That's what's nice about this, and something that I really, really enjoy. And then the third part of this individuality for me is the idea of custom pens. You can literally get a pen made out of your favorite material in your favorite colors, with your favorite nib size, with your size section, with a clip, without a clip, with a roll stop, without a roll stop, faceted, smooth, matte finish, gloss finish, whatever you want it to be, the size you want, the shape you want, the material you want, and get it tuned to write the way you want it to write. There is absolute individuality there. You partner that pen with your favorite ink and you're gold. That is such a great thing about this hobby. Once again, you can't get that using a big ballpoint. This is what makes fountain pens such a beautifully personal, individual experience. Now we come to the cons portion of this video, and I don't want to be negative about this hobby. I want us to all enjoy it. So what I've decided is that there are 3 aspects of the hobby that some people consider to be cons, and that they struggle with. And so what I'm gonna do is just suggest ways they can kind of be overcome as a fountain pen user in this beautiful hobby that we all enjoy. Okay, so here we go. 1, in a modern world, there is less need for writing and less need for a fountain pen. And this is true, we're all writing less. So what can you do? Well, you can make an effort to write more. Find ways to bring some of that back into your life. Is it journaling? Is it writing letters? Is it simply writing your shopping list or your to-do list with a nice pen, sitting down with your coffee in the morning and writing out what you need to accomplish that day? Make an effort to find a way to write, to enjoy writing, to enjoy fountain pens. And my next point on that is, yes, fountain pens are less convenient. They're less convenient than an iPad. They're less convenient than a ballpoint pen. You need ink, you need special paper. There is mess involved sometimes. You don't want to get ink on your fingers or your clothes. So let's make fountain pens something special. If you can't incorporate them into your everyday life, traveling with them in your pocket or whatever, find a way of incorporating them into journaling, sitting at your desk, sitting, on your lounge, writing in your journal, whatever it might be, but make it special. If you can't get around the convenience of it, make it something that's special for you. And then of course, every time you use a pen, you're getting away from a screen. And if the less time we spend on phones and iPads and all that kind of stuff, and yes, I'm right here talking to you through a screen, but the more time we can get away from that, the more times we can disconnect and switch off, it's better for us. And we're not bombarded by that digital world around us. So incorporating pens into all of these kinds of things, specifically in this instance, fountain pens, is a really great way of doing that. As you can see, the sun's just decided to come out, and we move on to the next topic. I think is a big one for us fountain pen users, particularly with a world of social media around us, and that is FOMO, the fear of missing out. We've all been in that experience where we haven't been able to get the pen or the ink that we want because it's sold out after being a limited edition or whatever. We see people using them all over social media, and that's what we want. So why are you collecting? Ask yourself that question. Are you collecting because this is a pen you have to have? Is it a pen you love to use? Do you have multiple pens in? Do you have that pen but not in that nib size? All of those sorts of questions. Ask yourself why you're collecting, and if this is an actual integral part of why you collect. Collect because you love something, because you use it, because you need it, not just because everyone else has it. You do not need everything. Coming from me, who needs everything, but you do not need everything. So keep that in mind. A couple of great ways we can combat this. Firstly, we can switch off. Don't spend all your time on social media or YouTube, except for this channel. Spend all your time on this channel. Like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. But find ways of disconnecting from the things that spark that fear for you, that fear of missing out on something. We don't need to be on social media our entire lives. Get out and enjoy the world. Enjoy writing by hand. Once again, get away from screens, all of that kind of stuff. And another thing we can do is we can start to find ways to enjoy what we already have. Now, using different inks and different pens, finding different ways of writing, all of those kinds of things. Use pens for art. Enjoy the things we do have. Maybe try and have less pens in rotation. So when you go back to using a pen, it's because you love it and you realize why you loved it and how much you enjoyed it in the first place. And the last big con that I see in this hobby a lot is the expense. It's an expensive hobby to delve into. Yes, you can buy cheaper fountain pens for a few dollars. A couple of Jinhaos on eBay will only set you back $5. But the more we use, the more we see, the more we look, the more expensive these things get. And some of us just cannot justify spending hundreds of dollars on a pen. I know that every time I purchase a pen that's beyond a particular price point, I really have to think about it. I have to write a pro and con list myself about that pen as to why that pen will become a good part of my collection. And that's an important thing to understand, is that there is a lot of expense involved in this hobby. Ink is not cheap. We have to use better paper. There's all of these sides of it. And there are ways we can combat that within our own pen use. A couple of these I've already touched on. For instance, rotating through your collection. Are you one of these people who has all their pens inked up at one time? If you do, are you writing with them that much? Are you writing enough to work through all that ink? Or is it just sitting there in pens when you want to use it? Now, there are no right or wrong answers here, but for me, one thing I have found is having less pens inked is that I can dedicate more time to enjoying those pens when I use them. So I can, if I've got 5 pens inked, the choice is one of 5, and I tend to write more with those pens over that period of time. If I have 50 pens inked, I'm not going to get around to writing with them all as much as I would like. So rotate through your collection. What that also means, if you have a larger collection, is that there'll be pens in your collection you won't have used for some time. And going back and using those can bring you a new sense of enjoyment of that pen. Another one I've kind of already touched on is ink. Now, there is so many inks. There are probably more inks in the world than there are different pens. So find a way of incorporating new ink. try inks you've not tried before. If you've never tried shimmer inks, try them. If you haven't tried sheen inks, try those. Find inks that you can mix. There are a lot of brands that are made for this. I know Platinum has its mixable line, so try that and try making your own ink color that you enjoy, that says something to you. But there are so many colors. I have well over 100 Robert Oster inks, well over 100 Diamine inks in my collection. They are the two brands I sort of come to more often, and that way I can find ways of using new inks to spark new enjoyment of the hobby. Find colors that you like, find properties that you like, put it in a pen you've never tried it in. If you're used to writing with a particular ink in a fine nib, try it in a broad, try it in a really wet pen and see what you can get out of it. Find all that enjoyment without having to constantly buy new things. And along with that is enjoy the simpler items within that. There's nothing wrong with a $50, well, it's $50 in Australia, TWSBI pen, and if you're just using it for everyday writing, are you going to notice that much difference between that and a more expensive pen? The law of diminishing returns is strong in this hobby. You get to a price point where, you're buying a piece of jewelry or an artwork as opposed to a functioning tool. Yes, they are a functioning tool, but that's not necessarily why you're buying it. So enjoy the simple things, find ways of enjoying that. As I said, new ink is a great way of doing that, and it's generally speaking a lot more affordable than a new pen. And then the last thing I suggest to people in this vein is try nib swapping. Now, a lot of pens use stock sized nibs. You can get those ground into different kinds of nibs, but find pens within your collection where you can swap the nibs. Do it safely, do it carefully, and don't try and force anything that's not supposed to fit. But if you've got a particular nib on a particular pen that you love and you know that nib is also compatible with another pen you love, try swapping it and see that new writing experience, if that can give you something new. As I said, the whole point of this hobby is to enjoy the pens, to collect what we can when we can, and what we should collect, not just everything, but to enjoy what we have and to enjoy writing and to enjoy ink and paper and all of this. And it's a wonderful community full of smart people with great ideas and great answers to questions. And you just have to look on Instagram and YouTube and all these kinds of places to see just the depth of this community. So enjoy that, enjoy the community, enjoy what you do, and don't fear missing out, don't fear the expense. You can find things within yourself that really help you enjoy this hobby. So this was just my sort of idea, my concept of some pros and cons of this beautiful hobby we're all involved in. If you're new to the hobby, I've got a range of videos designed for new users to help you on the beginning of your journey. As I said, reach out to people in your pen community, reach out to the pen stores, go to see a physical pen store. If you can, if there's one in your area, they really need our support. And so yeah, lots of ways we can enjoy this hobby without becoming overwhelming, and lots of pros to this hobby, which is why there are so many people in it, and these were some of mine. So I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. It all helps the algorithm every time you interact, and it helps me to continue to make more content for you. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.